Hi everyone, it's Yvette Blowitz from SPAITGIRL.com and welcome to the SPAITGIRL Talk Show podcast. I'm super excited to be here with you today and with our very special guest, Briony Benjamin, who is the author of Life is Tough, But So Are You. She's also the founder of Social Parade. She's known for her viral video productions. She's a producer, a global storyteller, and one of our most loved Aussie women girls. How are you, Briony?
Oh, hi, Yvette. What a beautiful welcome. I'm really well, thank you. And I'm super pumped to be here and to be talking with you and your beautiful audience.
Before we dive into your book, are you happy to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. Yeah, as you said, I like to call myself a video mischief maker. I've made lots of viral videos over time, and the thing that gets me the most lit up is making videos about causes and things that I really care about, getting important messages out in the world, but doing it with a bit of humor and a bit of cheek. I was head of video at Mamamia Women's Network, which is a really large publisher here in Australia, and was having a great time. But I had started the job, and a few months in, I was just feeling crappy all the time. I just felt awful. And so I kept going back to the doctor, and they kept just telling me I was stressed and I should just rest a bit more and, learn to meditate. But no matter what I tried, I tried cutting out dairy and alcohol and caffeine and sugar and, resting and meditating and Marie Kondoing my room. And I could just never, ever get on top of this tiredness that was all through me. I'd get sick really easy. I was having night sweats at night, so I'd sort of wake up dripping in sweat. The other symptoms that I had, I suppose, was really itchy skin, and I had a cough. And we thought these were all unrelated things. But unfortunately, it turns out after lots of tests and lots of dead ends, my parents really encouraged me, in fact, forced me to go and see a specialist, a blood specialist. When I went and saw this hematologist, she ordered some further tests, said, let's get a biopsy because something's looking a bit strange on the scan, but, nothing to stress about. And so she said, come back in a week and I'll give you the results. And so I came back a week later. My dear mum, who insisted on flying down to Sydney to be with me from Queensland. And I said, Mum, don't be silly. You're being over the top. I've got to just rush to work. I don't have time. She came with me, thank goodness, because I sat down in that room with that doctor and she said, so the results are back. And I'm so sorry, but it is Hodgkin's lymphoma. It's quite advanced. So by that point, it had spread all through my body, outside of the lymph glands and into my bones and into my neck and hip and shoulders. And she said, so what it means is we're going to have to clear your next 6 months. We're going to start you on a course of chemotherapy pretty much straight away. But all I want you to do today is we're not going to get too far ahead. We're not going to think about the future, about treatment, about chemotherapy. We're just going to focus on the next 3 steps, which is getting a blood test, getting your heart and lungs tested, and getting you into an IVF appointment to see what your options are for freezing eggs for your, to preserve your fertility. So it was, wow, what a big sucker punch moment, that we sometimes get delivered in life, just something you're never expecting, particularly when you're 31. But I think that was really wonderful advice, that let's just focus on the next few steps. And so I write about that in the book. No matter what you're going through, or if you're just feeling a bit overwhelmed and flat, sometimes you've just got to break it down and just think about what's that next few things, or maybe even just what's the next thing I need to do. And that really helped me through what was to come.
Wow, that is such big, tough news to take when you just are going to rush in, get your results, go back to work. Your mother must have had this gut feeling or instinct that something wasn't right for her to want to fly to be there.
Yeah, I think mother's intuition, isn't it? And I think women, we have amazing intuition that we so often don't tap into and listen to. But yeah, she just knew. She was insistent. And I said, Mum, I've got to race to work after. There's no point. I'm just too busy. And she just insisted, no, I'm coming and I'll be there. And thank goodness, because it's a moment that you certainly don't want to be by yourself in a waiting room with a doctor.
In your video, your viral video, you talk about how you felt so scared. In that moment, were you more in shock when you got the news and like, what the? where your
Yeah.
brain is trying to process it but can't, and you just feel like completely in shock.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just that, I mean, that first day was probably the hardest in many ways, because the shock just keeps hitting you in waves. You know, you forget about it for a few minutes and then you go, oh my gosh, this is happening to me. And I remember that first night falling asleep, and my boyfriend at the time, we're not together anymore, but he was laying beside me in the bed. And I remember just probably every hour I would just wake up and just burst into tears again, because you remember. And it was just such a shock. And then I think, so I had that first day, and I say in the video, you think you might break in two. It's like that total heartache kind of feeling. And then I think really from the next day I went, okay, well, this is pretty crappy, but I'm going to make it as enjoyable as it can be, or at least less crap. And we're just going to get through this. Put all my energy now into just focusing on getting through it and getting out the other side.
And when you had to tell at the time everyone that you had commitments with, whether that be work, how did they respond to the news that you're actually not going to be available now because just been diagnosed with cancer and need to do treatment?
It's funny, isn't it? All the things that you think are so important and stressing you out so much, you realize in those moments, none of it really matters, you know, in the scheme of things, you know, unless you're someone like a doctor or someone that is doing literally life-saving work every day. You know, everyone was amazing. I mean, as soon as I came out of the appointment, I remember just writing down a list of everyone who was most important in my world and calling them one by one, because I wanted to let them know, I suppose, before they heard from other places. And everyone was it was just such a shock, particularly I think when you're young and you look so well and healthy. And people were seeing me playing touch football and squash. Like, I love squash really randomly. It's a great sport. So they were I think just really shocked by it. And my work was amazing. I was working at Mamamia at the time, and my boss, Holly, was one of the first people I called, because obviously I wasn't going to be coming into work that day. And straight away, you know, she was just, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. Don't you think another minute about anything to do with work? We're going to take care of everything. Yeah.
Wow.
Because getting through the workday is not high on your agenda on a day you've been given that news.
It must have been so beautiful, though, to have that comfort and support and those kind words at the time.
Yeah, it really was. And everyone I rang just about burst into tears straight away. And, you know, that just, if anything, it just makes you feel how lucky you are to have people in your life that care enough, you know, to be upset with that news. So, yeah, I felt very grateful.
And when you went into the chemotherapy, in your video, you share how it made you really sick, had to deal with losing your eyebrows, eyelashes, your hair. In your book, you touch on you're in hospital, and it's in that moment you feel really sick, really crappy, but you experience the power of kindness. Can you share with us that moment, and also why kindness is so important to you?
I remember being 3 weeks into chemotherapy. It was before my hair had fallen out, so I still had really long hair. I'd do my makeup every day when I went into hospital, and I'd have bright pink lippy on. And to the outside world, I looked like a perfectly normal, healthy, if not really well, 31-year-old. And I just thought, oh, it's so interesting. And I must remember this always in my life, that you just literally never know what someone's going through, be that family problems and issues, be that something with someone's child or their family member, or just some gut-wrenching loss that they're going through that you can't always see, and it's not visible, it's not clear. So it was just a really great reminder to me to never judge anyone, because you just don't know what people are experiencing. You know, particularly when you've lost your hair and you look like a cancer patient, you just see the genuine kindness in people's face and in the way that they help you and go about your day. Like it's not a look of pity. It really is just this human, like, you see the humanity in people. People just want to make your day that bit easier, that bit nicer. You know, I've always operated from the idea that I think people are good at heart. And we all actually, whilst at the moment it might seem in the world there's so much dividing us, we actually have a lot more in common with each other than we think. You know? Most people just want to live a happy life. They want to be healthy. They want their family to be healthy and happy. We want clean air. We want clean water. We want to live in a beautiful world. So actually there's a lot more that unites us than divides us. And I think that was a really lovely experience in terms of going through something really tough, just seeing that, oh yeah, that's right, people are really good at heart.
You also share in your book the Serenity Prayer that comes from a friend. Can you share more about that with us?
Yeah, and I actually might pull the book up. I don't want to misquote it. It was something that my beautiful girlfriend Marike sent me early on in that first week, and she wrote me out a little quote, and she just said, I just want you to know that not all things have to be understood. Some things just have to be accepted. And it was such a powerful message to take through that first week when you want to know, why has this happened and why me, and like how long and who stuffed up. I honestly, it really helped me just to not waste any energy or time worrying about those things, because it really just zaps your energy and leaves you feeling quite drained. So she sent me this little prayer, and it just said, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And it just helped me so much. And she suggested that I just light a candle, sit in the darkness, and find a way to accept what was going on. And that just helped me enormously. And I think, be it dealing with COVID and being in lockdown again, or dealing with the extreme loss and grief of losing someone that you love, it's about finding, as hard as it is, like, and I'm not saying it's easy, but if you can somehow find a way to surrender and accept and be at peace with what is happening, then you can put your energies into getting through it.
That was such a touching part of the book that I thought we had to absolutely share. And it was so sweet and kind that your friend shared that with you. And now by sharing it through your book and on the podcast show, that's going to help so many people who are going through such difficult and tough times at the moment. I want to ask you, you are huge on journal your heart out. Journaling. Yeah. Can you share more about journaling? Did you do journaling during your chemotherapy and found it to be a really great way to express your feelings? And do you still love to do journaling now?
I do. I love journaling. I still love journaling, and I love stationery and getting beautiful books and sit. Like my ideal morning is getting up early before everyone's up and just sitting at my desk and journaling, looking out at the garden. And so journaling, I didn't realize it at the time, but it's a really incredible tool during a tough time. And they've shown that actually even people like that are journaling, like their wounds heal faster when they're journaling. I did this thing, it's called the Morning Pages, and it comes from a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, very famous book. And it's a 12-week book, basically a 12-week course on reconnecting with your creative self. But I really think it's just about reconnecting with yourself. And so it asks you different challenges and gives you different questions each week. And then as part of it though, you do the Morning Pages. And that is just the first thing you do in the morning. When you get up, you just brain dump 3 pages. So whatever is in your brain, you just write, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. Some days it's just a big old whinge about something. Some days it might be quite reflective. But the idea is that you're just taking the cloud of thoughts that's in your head and you're getting it out and you're putting it on paper. It doesn't mean you're not still thinking about those things or worrying about them, but it kind of takes the steam out of them a bit. She describes it sort of as spiritual windshield wipers for the soul, which I really like, just getting that mud, clearing the path so you can actually see where you want to go. So I found that to be a really great tool during chemo. But also for anyone listening that is just feeling a bit uncertain at the moment or not sure what they want to do next with their life, journaling I can't recommend more highly, just to help you make sense of the world and step forward.
I love, love, love journaling. I'm a bit like that Oprah Winfrey, where I've got journals from 10 years ago.
Me
I
too.
can go back and look at those tough times, look at the good times. And it's so lovely to self-reflect. And I kind of find it's like therapy in a way. Like if you can't afford to go to a therapist, like it's a great way to just offload and in safety. One of the things that I really loved about your book, you talked about support groups. You also talked about how it's a must to have a psychologist or a psychiatrist or a counselor. You found a psychologist to be incredible when you were going through chemotherapy, and especially when you're losing your hair and your eyebrows and eyelashes. I was just really pleased that you shared that in your book, that you're really open and honest. Obviously helps as well with breaking mental health stigmas, supporting others as well. How important was the psychologist for you during those tough times?
Well, I spoke to a few different psychologists at the in the first week that I was diagnosed, because I was like, I just want as many tools up my sleeve here as possible. And then I must say, and I write about it in the book, I had a really bad experience basically with someone I went and saw in the hospital who we just didn't click. And it was a high emotional day. My hair had just started falling out. And I found her approach really just a bit direct, and it made me feel quite scared, and I didn't feel really safe with her. So I would say, I write about in the book, that kind of scared me off for a while, to be honest, going back, because I was like, oh, I don't want to go there. I'm not ready for that. That really upset me. And I write about that in the book to encourage people that if you have a bad experience, it doesn't actually mean therapy is not for you or seeing a counselor is not for you. It just means you didn't connect with that person. And it's a bit like I was chatting with someone about this the other day. It's a bit like dating. You don't go on one bad date and then go, well, dating's not for me. I'm never going to see anyone ever again in my life, Like, imagine that, a terrible Tinder date. And then you go, oh, well, relationships are obviously just not for me. So it's really about that personal connection. I basically say in the book, don't be like me. Don't be scared off and then go, well, I'm not doing that ever again. That was a terrible idea. Because then when I found someone a little bit later who I just clicked with straight away, she got to know me before she started, giving me really direct advice. And that was really amazing.
I love your honesty there, because I interview a lot of psychologists, a lot of psychiatrists and counselors, but they all absolutely say that you have to click with them or with someone, and it has to be a mutual click, and not everybody's style or personality or energy is compatible. So it is a bit like dating. It really is a bit like dating. I love that analogy. That's really cool. In the book, you share about making time for laughter and happiness. And in the morning, you love to get up and dance to Taylor Swift.
Oh, yeah.
You're big on positive music, upbeat music, playlists, but also creating humor and seeing the fun side. So even when you were going through chemo and you weren't naturally feeling healthy because you felt so sick, can you share more about that and how it really transformed the way you felt?
I also write in the book about you don't have to be Pollyanna when you're going through a crisis. It was something that was helpful that I learned from a psychologist who said, you can actually not enjoy a single step of this if you don't want. And I thought, well, that sounds a bit of a drag to go through it like that. But, releasing that pressure valve that you don't actually have to be like Miss Positivity and positive your way through this. Firstly, I would say that to people, because it almost puts a whole nother pressure on you, right? If you have to be also showing the world that you're incredibly positive and amazing and whatever. So you've got to feel what you feel. And I think the help of a counselor, psychologist, people that you really trust, and the journaling, that really helps you do that. But on the other side of that, I would say it's also really important to be really intentional about what you're consuming at the time. I was 6 weeks into treatment, and my friend Jenna, who writes a section in the book, she said to me, have you watched much comedy? And I said, no, I haven't watched anything. And she said, you need to put the Netflix on, get the stand-up comedy going and watch it. Ali Wong's is a firm favorite of mine. Forcing yourself to watch things that you might not think to otherwise is really important, because it does have an impact. And so I talk about just forcing that. Start a pun war with a friend. Think of the people that you find the funniest. Give them a call. Make sure you're engaging with really positive energy, and being careful about what negative energy is around you that you actually don't need to be around. An illness gives you that permission slip that you never feel like you have to say, actually, I need this around me right now, and I can't really handle that, or I don't want to be talking about that, or I don't want to be thinking about that. There's a section in the book that just says, you can't polish a turd, but you can roll it in glitter. And I think that idea of going, well, if I have to do this crappy, awful thing anyway, how can I make it a bit less crappy? And so for me, even going into hospital, I can genuinely say that I enjoyed my trips into hospital, because I'd formed such lovely relationships with the nurses by that point. I made a point to write down all their names as I met each one of them, and I'd keep it as a list in my phone. So I went in, I knew it was Jody or Amy or Jeff, because that just makes it more fun as well. They feel like a human, and they feel like you're respecting them in the amazing work that they're doing. And my mum would make a big jar of bliss balls every time we'd go in. And so they knew that when we came in, it meant there were treats for them. And, just things like that just made it a bit more enjoyable. Like I was going in going, oh, I wonder who I'll get today and which nurse I'll have, rather than sort of dreading it. So it was just trying to find any little thing that would make it a bit more enjoyable.
I love how you've got the recipe in the book as well, the bliss balls that your mum does. Your mum must have been such a rock for you. She's in your video and you talk about the importance of family. Through this experience, you've learnt so much that your family and your closest friends or your true supporters, those who are cheering you on, lifting you up, really there for you, are so important.
Yeah, absolutely.
So blessed, aren't you, to have
that? I felt
support.
incredibly lucky, and for people that are going through a really tough time that feel they don't have that, I just want to acknowledge that, that is really tough. It's really tough. I think we're fortunate in Australia. I know you've got listeners all over the world, Yvette, but, in Australia, there are some great hotlines and services available. So just always be thinking, if you're really needing some more support and you don't have it, there are services for everything in Australia that you can call. And I know, for example, if you're dealing with cancer, you can call the Cancer Council. They have a hotline and they'll have like a registered counsellor can speak to you and talk you through, and they are amazing and they have such fantastic advice. Lifeline's the same. We have a suicide callback service in Australia if you're feeling really like, you can't cope and you really need some urgent help. We have legal aid in every state in Australia. So if you're really concerned about your finances or a legal situation that you're in, there are always options. And I think we sometimes forget, like, there are more people actually willing to help you than you realize. So it is about that asking for help, though, which can feel very daunting. And I know a girlfriend said to me really early on in my diagnosis, I had no idea actually, she was a squash friend and she'd had a brain tumor. And she said to me, I just want you to, like, if I can just offer you one piece of advice, she said, is that you just got to lean on your people during this time. You want to do it all yourself and be really strong, but you're just going to need their help, and you just got to lean into it, and they really want to help you. So let them do it. And it was such good advice to just sort of relax. And once again, it's like that surrendering, right? Surrendering into it. I don't have to do this alone. And, it's kind of what life's all about, is helping others and lifting them through. It really is what life's made of. And don't worry, you'll get a chance to help someone else down the track for sure. So just leaning into that as well.
Leaning into it and leaning on others, which sometimes we can be a little bit, our ego can get in the way of not really wanting to tell people what we need help with or that we're struggling. And I love that in your book, you talked about if you're going through a tough time, say it out loud or talk about it. What I really love in your book, you talk about how to feel the Zen vibes. Obviously, one of your doctors said that you should take up meditation, and you have that in your book about meditation and meditate, and you find that to be an incredible way, don't you, to clear your head, because you are a thinker. Every creative person I've ever met, and I am one, is an overthinker. It's like the brain
totally
never switches off. So how did your meditation journey play out? And what kind of meditation do you do? And how does it make you feel?
I will be the first one to put my hand up and say I'm certainly no perfect meditation student, but and I'm very ad hoc with it at the moment, to be perfectly, transparent and honest. But when I'm in a good habit of it, I do love it. And so I was connected with a Vedic meditation teacher called Mathieu Carlotte. And he's amazing. He's French. He lives in Sydney, now in Byron. And he is also a lymphoma survivor. So he was sort of the perfect guide for me because he just really got where I was at and what I was going through. And so we formed a really lovely friendship from that. I thought he had some really great analogies. He said things like, we don't necessarily like doing washing and doing your laundry. I mean, some people might. Personally, I'm not a big fan. I prefer to be doing other things. I don't know about you, Yvette. But he said, you don't want to be doing your washing and washing your dirty laundry, but we like having clean sheets and clean clothes. And he's like, and that's what meditation is for your mind. If you think about a really dirty, muddy glass of water, And just, if you let that just sit and settle, and just watching all that water become clear as the sediment drips to the bottom, that's what meditation is for the mind. So yeah, he taught me the Vedic method of meditation, as you would probably know, but you get given a mantra by your teacher, and you just repeat the mantra over and over and over for 20 minutes. He described it like if you're on a skateboard and you're sort of pushing yourself off, the mantra is like that foot just pushing you off to get you started, and then you're sort of in the zone. But yeah, when I do it, I must say I do feel, one, you feel a sense of accomplishment that you've stuck to something repeatedly, and I do feel really calm after it. And I think, you know, the research just backs up 100% that it's such a good thing for the nervous system and for our bodies. And I was reading Big Magic again the other day, one of my favorite books by Elizabeth Gilbert.
I love that book. That's one of my favorite books.
I adore it. I come back to it over and over and over. But, you know, she mentions in that how a meditation teacher who's a friend of hers said, I think it was Pema Chodron actually, said that a lot of people, they stop just as it's getting really hard, which is, she said, you know, actually if you just substituted the word hard with interesting, with a lot of things you do in life, you'd have a very different perspective on it. And I think that's a good reminder for me. And actually this conversation is helping to remind me that I really need to get back on the meditation bandwagon. But I think that idea that there is no such thing as a bad meditator or a bad meditation, that's something that Matthew really helped me understand. So when you're sitting there and you're having a million thoughts pop up, he's like, that's actually your body releasing stress. That doesn't mean you're doing a bad job of it. Because I think a lot of us have this misconception that to meditate means you can't think of anything and you've got to be totally zen. And it's like, well, actually, it's just a chance for your body to release all this stress. So yeah, that was a helpful way of looking about it.
I'm so glad. I love seeing that in the book. And I love seeing how through your journey you discovered the meditation, and basically now it's going to be part of your life, because I'm a big meditator and it's life transforming. And I can't get enough people to do it, just because just how much it just gives you an opportunity to switch off from the outside world, all that stress, and just reconnect with your own self. And it's just so life transforming. So how I do it every day, hail, rain or shine, I will not leave that front door until it's done.
Amazing. And what do you do? How do you meditate? What's your process?
I do a mindfulness meditation. I generally do a lot through Calm, but then I also can tune in to my own self. And sometimes if I need to really relax the body, I might do yoga nidra, or if I need to balance my chakras. It just depends. I feel like if I tune in, but generally a lot of mindfulness meditation, so that I can literally become more present in my body. Because as you know, that thinker, if most people are really creative, you're always thinking about the next piece of content or it's to do. So the mind is time traveling. So I just find mindfulness meditation as a way to come back into my body. I don't know if you've read the book Can't Hurt by David Goggins.
I haven't.
He's the toughest man in the world. So I took his mental toughness approach to my meditation, and then that's how I created that discipline.
Amazing.
You know, I got to be honest. Otherwise, prior to that, I was a bit like, oh, I'm going to meditate today, miss a few days. Oh, I'm going to meditate that day.
Okay. All right. I'm going to read that book and I'm going to apply that. So thank you. That is great.
So Briony, congratulations, first of all, on your book, Life is Tough, But So Are You. It's one of my all-time favorites. I love, love, love the vibrant, pretty colors, the title, but I also love how you touched on your challenge, overcoming cancer, being diagnosed with it, but all of the practical tips that anyone can do who's going through a tough time, whether that be cancer, whether that be depression, a breakup, a divorce, just anything that someone is going through. I just love the practical guide, the tips, the fun. It's easy to read, which is incredible. And it's so feel good. And it's just such an upbeat book for something you've gone through, which is so sad and tragic and made you really sick. And there was no knowing if you would come out the other side of it. It's just such a pretty book about how to rise to the challenge when things go pear-shaped. How did the book come about?
Back to that journaling that we were talking about earlier, I don't think I would have written a book had it not been for the journaling, because I think it really unlocked my writing again. It reminded me that I loved writing and that it gave me the confidence that I could write. As you mentioned earlier, I created the video You Only Get One Life, which sort of documented my whole journey through cancer, and that went viral. And off the back of that, the team at Murdoch Books saw it. And so my beautiful publisher, so Lou Johnson, who's the head of Murdoch Books, and then my publisher, my personal publisher, was Kelly Doust, who is just divine. And she reached out and just said, I was so moved by this video, and I think we could turn it into a really helpful book for other people. Like, the motto of Murdoch Books is to live life well. And that just really resonated with me straight away. And she just said, I think you could do it. I think there's a book in you. And she'd obviously read some of the things I'd posted on my Instagram and shared, and she just said, let's talk about it. So yeah, I put a book proposal together off the back of that. Yeah, she loved it and said, yep, let's do it. So that's how it all sort of came about.
It's so exciting. Really, you've gone from being a video producer, doing video, to now written form, author, and we're living in times where I say reading is the new norm, and it's one of the most incredible things to come out of your journey is now we have this book, this feel-good book, this uplifting, empowering, inspiring book that shows that you have gone through hell and back, or we might say pear-shaped. You went through a pretty tough time. And how did you make the time actually to even write the book?
COVID happened, I suppose. So it was perfect time. The book offer came through as COVID literally began last year. So I just sat down and wrote. And I was actually really unwell the whole time I wrote the book. I was dealing with really bad chronic fatigue. But in many ways, it was a good thing, because what it made me really do is interrogate everything that I put into the book. So rather than just, being through it and feeling really great now and sort of forgetting how crummy you were feeling and thinking, oh yeah, do that and then do this, do that. It made me actually really go, okay, would this help me right now with how I'm feeling when I'm feeling really sick and nauseous today and flat and over feeling like this? Does this help? So I think that was actually a really, while it was crappy at the time, a really helpful filter to have over it. And yeah, I don't know if you saw that. I shared on my Instagram the moment like I first opened the book, and I opened it up and I just like burst into tears, because it felt, it was just such a milestone, I think, to have turned that whole experience, and just such a challenging, obviously the most challenging moment in my life, and to turn it into something that I know will help other people. Yeah, it was really overwhelming, but in a really lovely way. I felt really proud. Yeah.
Such a proud moment. It's such a proud moment. I always get super excited. You are matching your book today. For all of our podcast listeners, you've got to go to the SPAITGIRL YouTube channel, because Briony's literally got this incredible pink and yellow, because I love the colors of the book, and I love how you've got quotes in. And like I said, it'll go beside the big magic book. Elizabeth.
Oh my gosh, that is the highest praise indeed. I love Elizabeth Gilbert.
Now that your book's out, what's your hope for your book readers?
That the title of the book really sums it up. Life is tough, but so are you. And so it's really just, I want readers to come away going, oh, I feel like this book really understands where I'm at, and it's given me a lot of comfort and practical things. But that reminder that, yeah, life can get really tough, but you've actually got everything inside you that it takes to overcome what you're faced with. I acknowledge that in the scheme of what you can go through, I have been very fortunate, and I'm very grateful to be in good health. And there are people just suffering on all sorts of catastrophic life events, and there's such a spectrum of suffering. But I do think that I've learned so much from the other amazing people I've met along the journey, particularly lots of cancer survivors who are just, you have an instant connection with people that have been through similar things. It's like you speak another language. I just want people to come away with just knowing that they can rise to this challenge and get through it no matter how tough it gets.
And I feel now, even with COVID, it's a must-read book, because we're all going through our own challenges, our own struggles. So just knowing how to get through the tough times is such a gift, your book now, for our generation and many to come. And congratulations to you and the Murdoch team for creating such a feel-good, pretty, positive book, really uplifting. It's so amazing.
Thank you, Yvette. Thank you.
Oh,
thank you
goosebump
so
moment.
much. Thank you for having me on. It's been so lovely to connect with you. Gorgeous woman. And I just love what you're creating, putting out into the world. It's wonderful. So thank you for your really encouraging words as well, because not many people have read the book yet. So to hear such wonderful feedback, it gives me such a boost and gives me a whole heap of confidence in it as it's just about to go out into the world. So thank you.
3rd of August, it's going to go live, and you'll be able to do your TikToks and hashtag Briony Benjamin, hashtag Murdoch Books, and hashtag SPAITGIRL, hashtag Life is Tough, but so are you. There's going to be so much fun with your book, with book launches, virtual book party. So I can't wait to everyone to get a copy of your book, to read it, and to obviously then share it with those they love. But before we say goodbye to you, what are some of your go-to self-care rituals? You touched on definitely journaling, definitely meditation. Are there a couple of other things you also love to do?
The thing that I am trying to get better at is I've been going to this chronic fatigue clinic to help me sort of manage the symptoms of chronic fatigue. And something that they helped me realize is that I don't really know how to rest, because I thought that sitting and reading a book or listening to a podcast or watching a TV show, that was resting, right? And they said to me, actually, none of those activities are resting. That they all require quite a high cognitive load. You're thinking, your brain's going. So actually just trying to carve out more times in the day where I just get a cup of tea and I just go sit out in the garden and just stare at the world, like that's resting. I think getting a massage or doing something where you're off devices, off screens. If 10 minutes feels like impossible, I think even just finding a minute that you could do here and there throughout your day and then slowly build up. I think it's really important in this age of total digital connection that we do find those moments to just be.
I love your wisdom. And I loved in your video how you said, let's go get a mani.
I know, and all my guy friends came and got it with me as well, because I remember a friend coming over one morning. It was like the few days into diagnosis, and he said, what do you want to do? And I said, actually, I really want to go get a mani-pedi. Do you want to come too? And so my girlfriend Tash, who I was living with at the time, and then my boyfriend and 2 other guy mates, we all went and did it, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was so sweet. And your friends seem incredible, like their energy and their positivity, and like, we're going to beat this.
Yeah.
Because you must have had moments. People will definitely want me to ask you this question. There must have been moments, like low moments, that anxiety kicks in where you're not sure, am I going to get to the other side? Could this be it? Like, you were creating your videos, and I've listened to a couple of other podcasts you've spoken on where there were moments when you weren't sure, is this video for legacy? Is this video just so my friends and family have it as a tribute and know what I'm going through? When you had those moments of, man, I don't know, like, am I going to get to the other side? Was it really those friends that were like, we're going to beat this? Okay, I've got this. Like, did that really help you?
I mean, your support network is so valuable. We talked about kindness earlier. It's just that all those little acts of kindness give you such a boost when you're going through a challenging time. I remember a girlfriend of mine, she had a friend who I had never met. Roxy was her name. And she sent me a card and a book and said, I just want you to know that people that don't even know you are cheering for you and sending you love and, just wishing you all the best. And that was so touching. So I think people sometimes worry about like, oh, I don't know the person well enough, or I haven't been in touch. And I just think, look, everyone's different. Some people may hate hearing from people that they have never heard from. But I just think so long as you're not asking them questions and expecting an answer, like just getting love from all sorts of corners is always helpful.
Yeah, well, you're going to get lots of love from all sorts of corners with your brand new book. Life is tough, but so are you. I could speak to you forever about your story, your journey. I'm just so incredibly grateful that you have made it to the other side. like you said, really mindful of people going through such a challenging, tough time. But it's stories like your own personal story and book that gives such great hope, optimism, and I feel that we just need that so much in the world, that kindness, that little ray of sunshine. And I loved how you acknowledged all your family and friends and everyone who helped you through the journey. And I also loved how in your book you acknowledged the traditional owners, the Aboriginal land, waterways where you wrote the book, and also your gratitude to that. So thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Oh, thank you, Yvette.
Thank you. Well, I'll have to have you on the show in another time, because we only really just scrape the surface of your story, scrape the surface of your book. But if we grab a copy, everyone will be able to learn more about you. So how can we stay in touch with you now after this podcast show?
Well, the best place to find me is on Instagram. So I'm Briony, which is BRIONY_Benjamin. So find me there. I'd love to connect, and look forward to following your journey and continuing to follow the amazing content you're putting out in the world of it.
Yeah, well, thank you again. We'll say, Briony, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. It's been an absolute pleasure and honor to connect with you. You're one of our great Australian authors, which is going global now. You just help millions and millions and millions and millions of people around the world. So thank you so much for all that you do and all that you are. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvette. I've loved our conversation.
We will say goodbye now to Briony Benjamin. I just want to say thank you for tuning into the Spirit Girl Talk Show podcast. Be sure to subscribe, to leave a rating and review, and to tell someone you love to. And together, let's feel good from within.